How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. So I'm getting ready to start a project here in the house. I'm gonna do a bedroom makeover here. Now this bedroom, two of my sons were in here for 15-16 years after we moved in, and they at that time and still are, they were huge Philadelphia Phillies fans. So they wanted their bedroom painted in a Phillies theme, so we painted the room in Philadelphia Phillies colors, and then they decorated with different Phillies memorabilia. Anyway, they have since moved out and have their own homes, and this room has been sitting vacant now for maybe 5 years. So I'm finally getting around to coming in here and redoing it and cleaning it up and maybe making it a guest room. Who knows, maybe making it an office, but anyway, the room needs a complete makeover. So let me take you around and show you some of the obstacles I got and some of the things that I'm going to do here, and I'll talk to you about that, and then I'll take you along the journey as I progress, or as I do this, and show you at the end of this video the end product. So the walls were painted a blue. It's supposed to be Phillies or Philadelphia Phillies blue, and there's a red stripe that goes around the entire room that's supposed to be Philadelphia Phillies red. I know when I did this stripe, I thought to myself, boy, when I have to redo this room, it's really going to be a pain to try and get this stripe out. So here we are. Anyway, I think I'm going to have to take an orbital sander and sand this smooth, and probably go and spackle the entire wall where the stripes are. So like any boys' room, they really did a number on these walls, and there's all kinds of nail holes, there's pinholes from posters or whatever they hung on their wall, and there's all nicks and scratches on it, so we're gonna have to fix all that. We'll spackle that. The woodwork around the window is good. We'll just clean that up, put a fresh coat of paint on that. The nice thing about this room is the view. There's a view of my backyard. It's a really good view from up here. So the room itself is like 10 by 14. So there were two of them in here. One time we had bunk beds, and then we split them up. Over here were some shelves hung. You can see the screws in the wall. They'll all have to come out. We'll spackle up them holes. I'm thinking 2 coats of primer to hide this dark color, because we're going to go with a light color. And again, this window here, all the woodwork around it is good. It's in good shape. I'll just wash it and put a coat of paint on it. We'll put new blinds up on that one. Come back around to the back window. See, these blinds they're dirty. They're ready to go in the trash. Time for new ones. So this closet here, I can't stand this closet. If you see, when they built this house, they didn't trim out the closet, the opening to the closet. They just wrapped sheetrock around it. These are sliding doors, and you can see the track up there. So I'm going to completely make over this closet opening. I'm going to get this sheetrock out, and we're going to trim this up with some nice trim and make it look real pretty. Again, we want to hide that track up there, so I'll show you how I do it as we get further in the video. This bedroom's got a nice sized closet. Of course, the closet needs to be painted. Other than that, I don't think there's much to do. The ceiling fan, this is going to go. It's as old as the house. I figure since I'm doing a bedroom makeover, we'll get a new ceiling fan. And last but not least, these carpets. They've been through the war, let me tell you. So these carpets are coming up, and we're going to put down hardwood floors in place of the carpets. I like hardwood floors. Hardwood floors, in my opinion, are much cleaner to have in your home versus a carpet. I know there's different controversies with bedrooms, put carpet, hardwood floors. I'm putting hardwood floors in. So there's no kids in here. I'm not concerned with having hardwood floors in the bedroom. This is going to just be an office or a guest room, so I think the hardwood floors will look nice. Ordered the hardwood floors yesterday. I'm getting pre-finished 3/4 inch oak. They're not going to come in for 2 weeks, but that's okay. I got plenty of work to do in here to take me up to that 2-week time. Basically doing this on my off hours after work every night. I'll probably be in here for a few weeks. You know how that goes. If I have a bad day, I may not want to come in here and work. But this is a cool project. This is fun. I really enjoy this kind of work. So let's get started. So there's everything that was in the walls, whatever it was used for, hanging shelves, hanging posters, whatever. But it's a lot, and there's a lot of holes now to fill in the wall. So we'll have to get to that. We'll spackle them all closed, sand them real nice and smooth before we put the primer paint on. So this stripe that runs around the room was put on after the blue wall paint was put on the wall. So because of that, there's like this slight, it's up from the wall, it's raised. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to run an orbital sander across it using 120 grit paper and try and knock it down a little bit, and then come back over and spackle the entire stripe and smooth it out by sanding it, and then I think it'll disappear into the wall after we get the primer paint on. So let me get started with that. I don't know about any other way to do it. I don't think spackling it without sanding it is a good idea. I think I really should sand it first using the 120 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander. I just think it'll help with knocking down that slight ridge there. So let's see what happens. Yep, that's working well. So we'll go around the entire room with the orbital sander, and that'll knock off this bump here. And then when I spackle all the holes, I'll come across this and spackle it, just to be sure we got everything. So I finished sanding with the orbital sander, and the 120 grit paper definitely worked. It took the ridge off the paint stripe, so that worked out well. I'll come back and put maybe 2 skim coats of spackle on it. But all the way around the room I went. It took about an hour. And after I finished, as I was sanding with the orbital sander on the stripes, I noticed there was a lot of high spots, and the sheen off this blue was like blinding, and it was making it difficult to see where I was going to have to come back and spackle along the wall. So I spent another hour and a half with the orbital sander going over the entire wall all the way around the room. It took the sheen off, and now when I go to spackle all the imperfections and the nail holes and screw holes, I'll be able to see them much better. And just trying to get the wall as perfect as I can get it for primer and then the top coat of color. So next I'll start spackling all these nail and screw holes, spackle the imperfections, and we'll run a spackle bead over this stripe. Lots of imperfections on the bottom of the wall, and that's because there were teenage boys in here. That's what they do. They bump walls, they move furniture around. But to get a good paint job, you need to prep, and this is part of the prep process. Alright, so the spackling is all finished. As you can see, there was quite a bit. Lots of little dents, dings, and all the screw holes that were in the wall. Again, this was a teenage boy's bedroom for a long time, so this is what teenage boys do. But anyway, you can see where the stripes were. I went ahead and put 2 light coats of spackle across the stripes, and the reason I did that is to be sure that I have all the high edges knocked down. The key to a good paint job is preparation, and I want the walls to really look smooth after the final coat of paint goes on. So it didn't take that long. It's a little bit of effort. Most of this will get sanded off where the stripe was around the wall. But again, I just wanted to be sure that all the high spots along the wall from the stripe would be smoothed out. So Next is to sand all this. Now I use 150 grit sandpaper. I'll use a hand sander to do this, and when I sand, I'll sand in a circular motion. Most of this will all come off except for the area that was filled in. So let me get started with that. Okay, all the sanding is finished. What a mess. Anyway, it took me about an hour and 15 minutes. So the walls should be relatively smooth at this point. Now, to cover this, I'm probably going to do 2 coats of primer. I'll see what it looks like after the first coat and then make that decision after the first coat dries. But I'm thinking that it will need 2 coats. So I have a lot of cleaning up to do now with all this dust everywhere. But that's what comes along with prepping the walls for paint. So now that we have everything sanded, I can move on to priming these walls with some white primer and get these walls ready for a top coat. So the first thing we need to do is go around the room and cut everything in with a brush. So we'll go around the ceilings, we'll go down the corners, go around the windows, the doorway, and we'll cut in with a brush and paint out away from the woodwork, away from the corners, about 2 inches. And then when we come back with the roller, we can come back as close as we can without rolling into the woodwork or rolling the corner where the roller will hit the opposite side of the corner than where you're rolling your paint. So I finished cutting in all the corners and around the ceiling, around the woodwork, and this is 2 coats. And I gotta say, this blue paint is scaring me. It covered it, but you can still see some blue bleeding through. Really don't want to do 3 coats, but we'll see. I'm thinking that the top coat, since every top coat now is made with primer, that will cover it up, because there'll probably be 2 coats of color, but I don't know. So now I'm going to roll out the walls with the primer, and probably, well, definitely 2 coats. I really don't want to do a third, but we'll see what it looks like after I roll it out with 2 coats of primer. Okay, there's 2 coats of primer, and rolling the primer covered the blue really well. Where I didn't get good coverage was in the corners, and that's where I used the brush to cut in. But I think it's covered enough that the top coat will hide it. But it looks great. And the areas where the stripe was, you would never know that that stripe was there. So using the orbital sander and then 2 coats of spackle over it covered it really well. So next, I'm going to take this ceiling fan down. I'm going to get a new one. So take this down and paint the ceiling. The ceiling fan's down, and I set myself up with some temporary lights. So now we're going to go ahead and start painting the ceiling, and I'll start out by cutting in the corners with a brush, and then we'll come back with a roller and roll the whole ceiling out. Okay, so the ceiling's all cut in, 2 coats all around the edges, and now it's time to roll it out. So the ceiling's all painted. Now it's time to pull this carpet up. So we'll pull the carpet up in sections. We'll take a utility knife and just cut maybe 4-foot wide pieces, roll it up, tie it, and that way it's easy for the trash collectors to throw it on their truck. So now I'm gonna prep this doorway, or this closet doorway here. I'm gonna remove the sheetrock from the inside door jamb so that I can trim this out and make it look nice. Wrapping this door jamb with sheetrock, in my opinion, is just very cheesy and cheap. It really should be wrapped in wood with some nice trim around it to dress it up. So that's what I'm going to do. But to do that, I'll need to remove all that sheetrock from the inside of the door jamb to get it ready. Now, after I do this, I'll start to put the floor down. The trim will go up after the hardwood floor goes down. So you can see I took out the sheetrock that was wrapped around the doorway, and we'll come back to this after we get the floor put in. It was very easy to do. So we'll come back after the floor's in, and then I will trim this closet out. And the reason is because at the bottom here, I want the trim to sit on top of the floor for a finished look. So we'll put the hardwood floor all the way into the closet, and then we'll come back and finish this closet door frame. So here's the wood floor going down. It's a 3/4 inch oak, pre-finished, and I'll just move from this side of the room all the way to the other side of the room. Alright, there's the new hardwood floor, all finished. And that didn't take too long. Get a better view, and I get all the tools out of here. Took some boxes from the hardwood floor, laid them on top. Kind of protect the new floor the best I can while I finish painting and adding some trim around the baseboard. But yeah, otherwise this went pretty good. So next, we're going to frame out this closet here, dress it up. Earlier in the video you saw how I removed the sheetrock that was wrapped around the doorway. We'll put some wood trim around this and finish this off, make it look a lot nicer than it did. Alright, so the trim is all finished and it's all prepped, ready to be painted. You see what I did with the closet? Much nicer than the sheetrock being wrapped around the doorway. And this will really pop once it gets painted white and we get some color on the wall. So all I did as far as trim work goes was this closet, and then I added some quarter round along the baseboard because I just butted the new floor up against the existing baseboard. So I'm going to put a coat of primer, and then we'll put a top coat of finish, semi-gloss white. Everything's been wiped down, cleaned, so all the trim is ready for paint. So the woodwork's all painted, and now we're starting to paint the walls. I'm cutting in around the corners. It's starting to come together now. Closet turned out great. So one more coat with cutting in all the corners and around the window, and then we can roll this out. Alright, so I'm calling this project done. This turned out really nice. See, the walls are all painted to light gray. New blinds, new ceiling fan. There's the new hardwood floor. That's 3/4 inch oak, tongue and groove. It's a pre-finished floor. New blinds on the windows. And here's my favorite part, the closet, where I got rid of the sheetrock that was wrapped around the opening to the closet and finished it off with some nice wood trim. Fresh coat of paint on the doors. Yeah, this was a good project. So it's always a good feeling when you get a project done like this around the house. There's nothing better than making something in the house look new again. I think the total cost of this bedroom renovation, it came in around $1,800, which sounds like an awfully lot, but the floor itself was almost $1,200. But it's a hardwood floor. I'll never have to do anything with this floor again. I really like hardwood floors. I just think they're rich looking. It's probably 3 times the cost versus carpet, but the thing with carpet is it holds dirt. It gets dirty after a few years. It's tough to clean. With the hardwood floor, particularly this floor, it should stay nice for 20 years. And I should never have to do anything with it again, at least not as long as I'm around. And then I think the rest of the cost, I did use quite a bit of paint. I used 2 gallons of primer. From the beginning of the video, as you see, it was a dark blue paint in here. Very hard to cover, very hard to hide, so I had to do 2 coats of primer. The trim work, that ran about $230 for the trim that I needed for around the closet and the quarter round that I needed to put in around the baseboard. But other than that, it was easy. This is an easy DIY project to do. This was a bedroom that was occupied by 2 of my sons. They no longer live here. They have their own homes now, starting their own families. So we'll turn this room into a guest room, and guests can enjoy the hard work that I did here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button for me, that helps me. Leave some comments, and I appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.